the support will be there. I think that JD has a different view, and that's fine. But he's not Secretary of State. He's not Secretary of Defense. He's Vice President. This is President Trump will make those decisions with his senior leadership. But and look, there's no doubt that he's very skeptical of supporting Ukraine. He's much more interested in supporting Asia. But remember, he is just vice president.
Let's head stateside because there's a new kid on the block and he is causing waves. JD Vance gave a speech on the third day of the Republican convention as he accepted the Republican nomination for vice president. He spoke about his difficult upbringing in a working class family.
I grew up in Middletown, Ohio, a small town where people spoke their minds, built with their hands, and loved their God, their family, their community, and their country with their whole hearts. But it was also a place that had been cast aside and forgotten by America's ruling class in Washington. I was lucky. Despite the closing factories and the growing addiction in towns like mine, in my life, I had a guardian angel by my side. She was an old woman who could barely walk, but she was tough as nails. I called her Mamaw, the name we hillbillies gave to our grandmothers. Mamaw raised me as my mother struggled with addiction. Some people tell me I've lived the American dream, and of course they're right, and I'm so grateful for it. But the American dream that always counted most was not starting a business or becoming a senator or even being here with you fine people, though it's pretty awesome. My most important American dream was becoming a good husband and a good dad.
So the Republicans are full tilt. They've got their full team assembled. And all of this comes as it's just been revealed that President Biden has contracted COVID-19. He cannot catch a break. At least that is something positive, although it's a positive COVID-19 test. Well, let's now speak to Greg Swenson, chair of Republicans Overseas. He's joining us live from that convention in Milwaukee. Greg, welcome to the show.
Hello, Aisha. Great to see you. Sorry about my voice. It's day four at the convention.
Day 4 and the voice, that's the sign of a good convention. Look, tell us a bit about this really interesting character, J.D. Vance. What do you think of him as I can say Biden, I feel I'm doing a Biden there, as Trump's running partner?
He's really grown on me. I was a little skeptical at first because I had some, concerns with him being, sort of too much like Trump or too much in President Trump's lane and not really appealing to other voters, like let's say a Nikki Haley would or a Glenn Youngkin would, more of the suburban traditional Republican voter. However, he's really grown on me, first of all. And secondly, I'm not sure it even matters because Trump, everything is going, as you mentioned in your introduction, everything's going right for the Republicans and for Trump. JD I chatted with him last night. He's a really likable guy. Couldn't be nicer. He's young, so he's going to appeal to the younger voters for sure. He's really articulate. Went to Yale Law School, which isn't really typical of Trump world. They don't have a lot of lawyers running around. They don't have a lot of Ivy Leaguers running around, and he's in many ways he's ideologically aligned. So I don't think he's there to be a balance like Mike Pence was or a Doug Burgum would have been. He's more, much more like Trump, and I think he'll be a great leader for him.
It's interesting as well. His partner, his wife, is from an Indian Hindu background. Quite an interesting sort of, that's an interesting aspect of his life as well.
Yeah, I didn't know that until this week. And look, Republicans don't really do identity politics. There's no room for, choosing because someone's, from one group or another. But good for him. This is a really great story. And I think that was a really good sell last night. And I already knew the story, but it was nice for him to articulate that for the whole country.
And look, Greg, one of our listeners, Lisa, has messaged in saying, look, J.D. Vance, not my jam, but he's clearly very smart and he's probably the future of the Republican Party looking ahead to 2029. This is a great question from my listener, Lisa. Is he using Trump or is Trump using him to reach a younger demographic? Great question, Lisa.
Yeah, it's a really great question. And look, I think it's politics. They're using each other, right? There's a certain amount of patriotism, but it's got to be win-win. I mean, it's, Trump wins because he gets a young protege who's a lot like Don Jr. in many ways. They're good friends. And it really, I mean, I met his wife last night. Again, she couldn't be nicer. Of course she is. She's at a convention for her husband. But, you know, I think it benefits both. I mean, he's aspirational. This is a pretty interesting story. He's only been a senator for 2 years. It's kind of got that
Yeah.
Barack Obama flavor,
Yeah,
where, you know, when,
he's
when Barack was only a senator for 2 years, the next thing you know, he's running for president. So,
and
go ahead.
And Greg, what about an issue that is concerning a lot of people here in the United Kingdom and European leaders? There's a big gathering in Britain today, Blenheim Palace, of European leaders. Defence, security is going to be on the agenda. JD Vance has been very, very bullish about Ukraine and about why it was America getting involved in Ukraine. What do you see the future of America supporting Ukraine if it's likely that Republicans win and you have Trump and
Yeah.
JD Vance?
No, I think that the support will be there. I think that JD has a different view, and that's fine. But he's not Secretary of State. He's not Secretary of Defense. He's Vice President. This is President Trump will make those decisions with his senior leadership. But and look, there's no doubt that he's very skeptical of supporting Ukraine. He's much more interested in supporting Asia. But remember, he is just Vice President. I often argue that, look at what President Trump does, not what he says. President Trump had a meeting with Boris, and at least according to Boris Johnson, reinforced the commitment that he has and that America has to it. So I know that people would like predictability, but that's not the nature of President Trump. So I am very confident that will continue, not without strings attached. I don't think they're going to just, as the phrase is, blank check. That's not the case, but there'll be support there. I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay. Well, look, Greg, it's always great to catch up with you and get your insights. Thanks very much for what your voice holds up. That's Greg Swenson, chair of Republicans Overseas. It's going to be so interesting to see what happens in that election. Of course, Times Radio is going to bring you all that coverage. Andrew Neil is going to be back as well, giving you his sort of expert analysis in that. But it is going to be absolutely fascinating.
And the brutal killing of a nursing student on her college campus. Countless families will never forget the pain and tragedy. And America should never forget who was responsible.
Americans vote for a union but can never get a union contract. Companies fire workers who try to join unions.